This episode is brought to you by HASA. Liquid is clearly better. Liquid chlorine is the highest purity, works immediately, has no added cyanuric acid or calcium, and it will leave your pool safe, clean, and clear. And by the Bottom Feeder professional grade battery powered vacuum system. It sucks to clean pools, so cleaning pools sucks less. Get $100 off with code DVB100.
This episode is brought to you by Skimmer, the #1 pool service software in North America. With Skimmer, you can streamline your schedule, grow your revenue, and keep your customers coming back with 5-star service. Whether you're a one-person operation or an established team, Skimmer is your partner in success. Visit getskimmer.com/poolguy to try Skimmer for free for 30 days.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show.
Hi, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'll be talking to Terry Arko of HASA. And in this first part, he's going to talk about the LSI index and why it's important to understand that LSI is, of course, geared towards preserving the pool surface, and it's not actually geared towards water safety. And he'll kind of explain the distinction between the LSI and also a proper pH level to ensure that the water is safe to swim in. Are you a pool service pro looking to take your business to the next level? Join the Pool Guy coaching program. Get expert advice, business tips, exclusive content, and get direct support from me. I'm a 35-year veteran in the industry. Whether you're starting out or scaling up, I've got the tools to help you succeed. Learn more at swimmingpoollearning.com. You wanted to talk a little bit about pH and LSI. I know I did a podcast episode on that recently. I think that caught your attention.
Yeah.
And we talked to, I know that in there I was talking about how a lot of pool pros are chasing pH. They want that. And, the industry standard has always been, and still is in the commercial pools, that the sweet spot is 7.4, 7.6. Health departments, will crack down on you if you're too high in a lot of cases.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that a little more. And I did listen to your podcast on pH, and I thought it was great. There were a couple of things that stuck out to me that I thought, let's bring some clarity here. And first of all, let's start off with LSI. And I'm HASA, and HASA is also, Orinda is a part of HASA. And I would say probably the thing that Orinda is, besides great products, most well known for is a really great app. And I would say probably an app that is responsible more than anything, I think, for bringing attention and education and information, very, very good information on the importance of LSI in the pool. And I'd also say that app, along with the education of Orinda over the last several years, has done the most overall in acclimating and educating the backyard service pro on LSI. I'm a CPO instructor, so I'm a commercial pool operator instructor. So I teach commercial operators. And LSI is a big part of that training, of the CPO training. They spend a lot of time going through that and explaining it and going through examples of it. That was never really, unless a residential pro was going to attend the CPO class, I don't think that they would have known much about LSI and how it pertains to pools. Orinda changed all that. And a lot of research, a lot of studies showing the importance of LSI in the backyard pool. And just from the overall standpoint of really understanding your balance and what's going on. So a couple of things, as you mentioned, definitely on the commercial end, this is where it gets into commercial pools are going to be inspected from time to time. There's health authorities, and there's usually a health inspector, health official that's going to visit that pool from time to time. Now, health authorities and public health authorities, obviously, health is in the name. So what's their main concern? Their main concern is the health of the public. Okay. So they probably don't care so much about LSI. And I'm going to explain that a little more as I go along. There's two main things when a health inspector walks into a public pool. There's two main things they're going to be concerned about. And number one is going to be the free chlorine level. Where's the free chlorine level? So the first thing they're going to do is they're going to check free chlorine level to see, is it in the correct range, which typically is 1 to 4, some places maybe 2 to 4. It depends on, use of CYA and so forth, but definitely that's their first thing. Second thing they're going to check, and really is primarily two things. They're going to walk in and out, two things: free chlorine level and pH. pH of the pool is the second thing. What they're going to do is they're going to make sure the free chlorine levels are correct. They're going to look at pH, and if pH is above, if the pH is 8 or above, that's immediate closure. And that's on all the records. If you look at, CPO, if you look at the APSB, ANSI standard 11 for public pools, what leads to immediate closure of a pool, pH above 8, pH 8 or above. That's immediate closure. Okay, so now let's think about why that is. So from the health standpoint and the health department standpoint, they go back to basic chemistry that teaches that the higher your pH, the less hypochlorous acid. That's the disinfectant that you're going to have. And so at a pH of 8, you're going to have only about 23, 24% hypochlorous acid in the pool, which is the killing agent. So in other words, you have very low killing agent. And again, you got to understand they're concerned with human health. So they want to see that pH lower, just from the standpoint of basic water chemistry, which tells us at a lower pH, we have higher killing agent, more disinfectant. And 8 is the cutoff, very crucial from that standpoint. So they're concerned with disinfection. They're concerned with public health. And that's why they're pretty strict about that. Turning to residential pools. So let's take a look at residential pools and the LSI. And so I think the first thing that I would want to state is for anybody that's using the LSI, anybody that's using an LSI app like a Render or whatever, is to basically understand that has nothing to do with disinfection. LSI is only dealing with water balance. And the main concern of LSI has to do with the protection of the surface, the protection of the equipment, and the comfort of your bathers overall. And that's ensuring that all water balance is in the correct range. Now, there was some education and instruction, and there's actually a scientific paper, I would say, that's been published in regards to whether or not pH at a lower pH is as important for the production of HOCl and disinfection based on if there's cyanuric acid in the pool. And basically the theory is that you don't need to be as concerned about keeping the pH lower in order to get good disinfection, because the cyanuric acid that's in the pool, especially if it's higher cyanuric acid, is what has a greater effect on the production of the HOCl, or the percentage, I'm going to say, of HOCl that's available than the pH. And so the kind of theorizing and philosophy of that was that's where the whole, don't chase your pH sort of philosophy came out of that, because basically what was being stated is that the cyanuric acid in your pool has a greater effect on HOCl than your pH and where you keep your pH. So you don't need to be as concerned about that. You need to be more concerned about where your cyanuric acid level is and maintaining your cyanuric acid.
And the Pool Guy Podcast Show has teamed up with UPA to bring you affordable, reliable liability insurance starting at just $64 a month. Get up to $2 million in coverage, and the members of my coaching group get an even lower rate. Protect your business and your peace of mind. Sign up with UPA today by clicking the link in the podcast description.
Level. I agree with that, maybe partially. It's a true statement. However, let's kind of look at Bob Lowry, and let's look at Pool Chemistry Training Institute and what's taught in Pool Chemistry Training Institute that Bob Lowry has brought to us, which is scientific fact. And the fact is that when you have cyanuric acid in your pool, a large percentage of the free chlorine is bound to cyanuric acid. And Bob says, in kind of normal circumstances, normal pool, you've got 97% of your free chlorine is bound to the CYA. And there's 3%, there's 3% free chlorine that is active and is available for disinfection. Okay, so let's think about that. So true, you've got a large percentage of your free chlorine, which would include your HOCl, that is affected by the fact that it's bound to CYA. Okay, so that's where you kind of could theorize that's having a greater effect. However, the 3%, that's doing the disinfection, that's doing the work, okay, that is not bound to CYA. And so the basic chemistry of pH and where your pH is in order to get the most hypochlorous acid killing agent applies to that 3%. And so this is why I believe that even in residential pools, we cannot be as lax. Now, from the water balance standpoint, maybe if the LSI is correct and balanced, you could say that. But again, we have to understand LSI does not equate to disinfection. And so, and when I teach water chemistry, one of the first questions I ask in water chemistry is, why are you adding chlorine to your pools? That sounds like a rhetorical question, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times the first answer I get is, so the pool doesn't turn green. And that's a very good answer, but you want to know the primary reason you're putting chlorine in the pool is to disinfect, to kill bacteria, and to ensure that that water is safe for your customers, so they don't get some sort of sickness from bacteria or viruses or germs. That's why we're disinfecting. And that's why disinfection is so important. And that's why I'm going to say, you don't want to go any higher than 7.8 in a pool, even with the cyanuric acid levels or whatever. You don't want to surpass that. And that has more to do with what are we producing from that 3% that is still pH dependent.
I was going to ask you, I'm curious, so the kill rate, being slower, how much slower is that? Is that, I know Bob Lowry talked about this before, is that sometimes with a residential pool, you're not really worried about bather-to-bather disease transmission. And so one of the things he always said is that, compared to a commercial pool, that's your main concern.
Right.
So the slowing down of the kill rate, how much slower is it at a higher pH?
Well, so if you have a higher percentage of the OCl, which at a pH of 8, in a typical backyard residential pool at a pH of 8, I think it's 76% or so of your free chlorine is in the OCl. Okay. And the OCl, first of all, the OCl, looking at percentages, that's 1% kill compared to HOCl, which is a 99% kill. But also the OCl, and this is stated in actually in the IPSA manuals and so forth that Bob wrote most of that, where he states that the OCl can be anywhere from 100 to 300 times slower kill than hypochlorous acid. So, I mean, if you look at something, let's just say E. coli, okay? E. coli is pretty easy to kill. 1 ppm of chlorine, it takes about 2 minutes to eradicate E. coli, free chlorine at the proper levels. All right, but let's figure you slow that down by 100 to 300 times. So I guess you could do the math and figure how many more minutes is that E. coli going to be present in the water. And if somebody ingests that, particularly small kids, it can be very harmful to them. That's just one example. But if you look at crypto, which is very chlorine resistant, that's where it gets really difficult. So, all I can tell you is 100 to 300 times slower than your kill agent of HOCl.
And if you're looking for other podcasts, you can find those by subscribing to my YouTube channel Monday through Friday. You can also go to my website, swimmingpoollearning.com, and on the banner is a podcast icon. There'll be a drop-down menu of over 1,700 podcasts there as well. And I'll be continuing my series with Terry Arko, talking more about LSI tomorrow. And you can, of course, find that podcast by subscribing. And if you're interested in the coaching program that I offer, you can also learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless. This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.